the biggest vibrational differences between the light and the dark chosen ones. We all come into this world with a pulse of purpose, a rhythm that either aligns with the light or dances with the dark. But here's the thing, they never tell you both the light and the dark have chosen ones. That's right, it's not just the radiant, peaceful sages who are called by the universe. The shadows choose their champions too. And you, sitting there in silence, scrolling through the endless noise of the world, might be one of them, a chosen one. But the question is, chosen by what? When I first realized this truth, it hit me like a thunderclap. I had always imagined the chosen ones as the enlightened, the healers, the ones who vibrated with the frequency of love. But then I met others, powerful, magnetic, and deeply compelling individuals who had access to energy, insight, and influence, but their core was cold. Their power came from a different source. And that's when I knew. The spiritual battlefield isn't a fairy tale. It's real, and the players are among us.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lesson.
You see, the biggest vibrational difference between the light and the dark chosen ones isn't power. Both possess it. It's not charisma or intelligence. Both radiate it. It's not even their ability to influence reality that's a universal trait of the awakened. The true difference is alignment, purpose, intention, and how they interact with truth. The light chosen ones are not perfect. They struggle. They doubt. They fall. But their compass always points toward healing, authenticity, and liberation for themselves and others. They're not trying to control people. They're trying to free them. Their vibration is like a tuning fork that resonates with truth. When you're around them, you feel seen. You feel safe. You feel remembered. Because they're not feeding off your energy, they're offering theirs. The dark chosen ones, on the other hand, often mask themselves with beauty, knowledge, and charm. They might even talk about love, ascension, consciousness. But their energy tells a different story. They use knowledge to dominate. They manipulate truth to serve their ego. Their power comes from separation, while the light-chosen ones draw power from connection. And here's the haunting part. They often don't even know they've been claimed by the dark. They think they're serving the light. They believe they're helping, but their vibration betrays them. It's sharp, it's draining, it takes, even when it appears to give. Now, I want you to pause for a moment and ask yourself the most uncomfortable question of all. Which one am I becoming? Not just who you want to be, but who you are becoming through your daily choices, thoughts, and intentions. Because the path to either side is built in whispers. The dark doesn't grab you overnight. It seduces you in small moments. The light doesn't crown you in glory. It tests you in silence. So how can we tell the difference in real time? Let me take you deeper. When a light-chosen one encounters pain, they transmute it. They feel it fully, grieve it, and let it teach them. They don't run from it. They face it like a mirror, because they know that healing their own wounds helps others heal too. The dark-chosen one, however, hides their pain behind power. They deny vulnerability and instead project strength. They use pain as a weapon, not a teacher. Instead of asking, "What is this teaching me?" they ask, "Who can I blame for this?" Here's another key difference: how they use their voice. The light-chosen ones speak to awaken. Even if their words are challenging, they are rooted in compassion. They speak not to be heard, but to serve. The dark-chosen ones speak to hypnotize. Their words might sound beautiful, but they're laced with ego. They use language to control perception, to elevate themselves, to build an identity that others will worship. And if you listen closely, you can feel the pull. It's subtle, but it's there. You leave their presence more confused than clear. And yet, both can perform miracles. Both can channel energy. Both can open portals of understanding. That's what makes it so hard to discern. We're taught to believe that power equals light. But that's not true. Power is neutral. It's how you use it that defines your vibration. Let me give you a story. I once sat in meditation for 7 days in a remote Himalayan cave. No food, no speech, just silence. On the third night, I had a vision, 2 beings standing on either side of me. One was cloaked in radiant white light, the other in deep obsidian shadow. But what shocked me was that they both smiled. They both offered wisdom, and they both reached out their hands. In that moment, I realized the universe doesn't force you to pick a side. It simply reveals the sides and waits. The question is, who do you trust with your soul? The light-chosen ones are not here to lead you. They're here to remind you that you already know the way. They don't need disciples. They activate leaders. The dark-chosen ones collect followers, feed on adoration, and grow stronger through dependency. Their vibration becomes addictive. You start to need them. That's how you know something's off. True light doesn't make you need them, it makes you remember you. But let's get even more specific. Look at your life. Do you feel more alive after spending time with someone, or more drained? Well, do you feel expanded or contracted? Do you feel empowered or subtly belittled? This is vibrational discernment. This is the compass that never lies. And let's not pretend this is easy. The dark chosen ones often rise faster. They get the fame, the followers, the influence, because they're willing to play the game. The light chosen ones often walk alone. Their growth is slow. Their impact is quiet. But it's real. And it lasts, because it's built on truth, not performance. So here's the most important question I'll ask you today. Are you willing to walk the path of light, even if no one applauds? Even if you lose everything that made you feel important? Even if it means being misunderstood by the world? Because that's the ultimate vibrational difference. The light-chosen ones are willing to be invisible for the sake of integrity. The dark-chosen ones will sacrifice integrity for visibility. And here's the twist. Sometimes we carry both within us. Sometimes the battle isn't out there. It's inside. Every day we are choosing. Every thought is a vote. Every moment is a fork in the road. So I'll leave you with this. What are you vibrating into existence right now? Who are you calling to stand beside you in your unseen moments? The light or the dark? Power V's presents the hidden currency of the spiritual realm. In a world obsessed with the external, the image, the influence, the illusion, there is a currency far more potent than money, fame, or even spiritual knowledge. That currency is presence. And this is where the vibrational gap between the light and the dark chosen ones becomes not just noticeable, but undeniable. Because while both paths may wield power, only one cultivates presence. And presence, my friend, is the most dangerous force in the universe, because it cannot be faked. You know it when you feel it. You've stood before someone who said very little, yet their silence spoke volumes. Their gaze didn't just look at you, it saw you. Their energy didn't try to impress or dominate, it simply was. That is presence. And it only arises when the inner world is in integrity with the outer expression. No masks, no manipulation, just raw, aligned being. The light-chosen ones live from this space. They don't chase power, because they are power in motion. Their presence transforms rooms without needing to speak. They don't need rituals or titles to validate their spiritual authority. Their authority is felt, not declared. It's like Standing next to a still mountain, you just know you're in the presence of something ancient and true. Their presence is medicine, not performance. It heals by simply existing. The dark chosen ones, however, are different. They often rely on power external, demonstrable, and performative. Their energy is not rooted in presence but in projection. They don't want to be something, they want to appear as something. And that's why their power is always in flux. It rises and falls based on validation. It depends on attention. If no one is watching, they feel invisible. If no one is listening, they feel forgotten. Their power is a performance that needs an audience. But presence doesn't care who's watching. And here's where it gets even deeper. Presence requires surrender. It demands that the ego step aside so the soul can step forward. And that terrifies the dark chosen ones, because without the ego's mask, they fear they are nothing. That's why they cling to titles, followers, aesthetics. It's all armor. But the light chosen ones don't need armor. They are naked in spirit, vulnerable, real. And that's why they're unstoppable, because nothing can be taken from someone who has already let go. Now let me ask you something you may never have considered. What are you using your power for? Is it to be seen, to be praised, to be followed? Or is it to serve, to elevate, to liberate? Because power without presence becomes poison. It detaches from truth and starts feeding on illusion. And the more illusion it consumes, the more it needs. That's why the dark chosen ones often feel empty inside, even when they have everything. They've gained the world but lost their soul's alignment. And it's not always obvious. Sometimes it comes in subtle ways. A desire to prove yourself spiritually. A need to be the most awakened in the room. A drive to show how much you've healed. These are traps. Ego dressed in spiritual clothing. And if we're honest, many of us have fallen into them. I have, more than once. But the awakening comes not when you pretend to be above it, but when you see it clearly, call it out, and choose differently. The light chosen ones are not immune to ego, they're just committed to rising above it. Every day they choose presence over performance, truth over image, depth over display. And that choice is painful, because it often means being misunderstood. It means people may not recognize your value because you're not shouting it from rooftops. But presence doesn't need recognition. It creates recognition, not through noise, but through resonance. I think about a tuning fork. It doesn't force other instruments to follow its tone. It simply rings in truth, and those attuned begin to vibrate with it. That's the way of the light. It doesn't dominate, it harmonizes. The dark chosen ones, however, often amplify themselves artificially. Their frequency is loud but not clear. It drowns out others instead of inspiring them. It creates echo chambers instead of ecosystems. And over time, this dissonance leads to destruction, inner and outer, because power without presence collapses. It burns itself out. It cannot sustain. So here's another question, and it might sting. Are you building a throne or a temple? A throne demands followers. A temple invites seekers. A throne elevates one. A temple empowers many. A throne is built for display. A temple is designed for transformation. One is about you. The other is about the sacred. Which are you constructing with your life? And don't mistake impact for alignment. Many dark chosen ones have massive impact. They change lives. They inspire movements. But impact without integrity is hollow. It doesn't last. It leaves a wake of confusion and dependency. The light chosen ones may seem slower, quieter, less flashy, but their work endures. It plants seeds that blossom long after they've left the room. Presence is eternal. Power is temporary. And that is the crux of the vibrational difference. The light chosen ones invest in what is eternal. They know that every moment of presence is an offering to the infinite. They trust the slow burn of truth. The dark chosen ones chase the fleeting. They crave the rush, the high, the applause. But it never satisfies, because the soul can't eat attention. It hungers for meaning. So if you're listening to this, I want you to sit with this one truth. Your presence is your power, not your words, not your image, not your followers, not even your knowledge, your being. That's what changes the world. That's what dissolves the illusion. And maybe that's the real purpose of this video, not to teach you something new, but to help you remember who you are beneath the layers, beneath the noise. Beneath the power is presence. And presence is where the light lives. The temptation of darkness, why the shadow path feels so seductively right. There's something undeniably magnetic about the dark. Not just the absence of light, but the richness of it, the way it whispers promises of power, clarity, and control. Unlike light, which often demands patience, surrender, and trust in the unseen, the dark offers immediate gratification. It tells you that you don't have to wait. You don't have to suffer for wisdom. You don't have to be humble to be great. And that's why so many of the chosen, those with real spiritual potential, fall into the shadow path without even knowing it. Because it doesn't feel wrong. In fact, it feels right. It feels like finally taking control of your own destiny. The darkness doesn't come to us as a monster. It comes as a mirror. It reflects our deepest wounds, our fears of abandonment, our cravings for love, recognition, and safety, and then it says, "Let me help you fix this." It offers tools. It shows you how to manipulate energy, how to influence people, how to craft realities that serve your desires. And it works. That's the dangerous part. The shadow path works until it doesn't. Because every time you use it, you pay a toll. Not in money, but in authenticity, in presence, in soul connection. You begin to notice that despite all your success, you feel more alone. Despite all your influence, you feel less seen. Despite all your power, you feel more fragile. That's the hidden cost. The darkness gives you everything except yourself, and soon you're performing a version of you that isn't even real. You're locked in a persona that you know, deep down, is hollow. You've become what the world worships, but you've lost what your soul needs. So why do we choose it? Because the light asks us to wait, to trust, to walk in humility when no one is clapping. The light asks us to let go of the very things we believe define our worth. It asks us to surrender our pain instead of weaponizing it. And that's hard. That's unbearably hard in a world that tells you to fight, to win, to dominate. The shadow says, use your wound as armor. The light says, use your wound as a teacher. And here's where things get even more complex. The shadow doesn't always feel dark. Sometimes it feels like justice, like empowerment, like finally standing up for yourself. But if the energy underneath it is revenge, if it's rooted in proving others wrong, if it's driven by needing to be seen as superior, it's not light. It's shadow dressed up as righteousness. And the more spiritual language we use to justify it, the deeper the illusion becomes. This is the vibration of false light, the kind of energy that looks pure but feels heavy, the kind of teacher that speaks of love but breeds dependency, the kind of leader that talks about awakening but needs you to stay asleep to their control. And the scariest part, they believe they're helping. That's why discernment is not optional on the spiritual path. It's essential. You must learn to feel the signature of truth, not just the appearance of it. Ask yourself, does this path make me, more soft, more honest, more whole? Or does it make me harder, more performative, more image-driven? Do I feel safe in my own silence? Or do I need the validation of others to feel real? And perhaps the most piercing question of all, if no one was watching, would I still do this? Would I still speak these truths, live this way, give this love, even if no one ever applauded? That's the test the light offers. And most people walk away from it, because the shadow gives you the world now. The light gives you yourself eternally. But here's the revelation: the darkness isn't your enemy. It's your teacher. It shows you where you're still wounded, where you still crave approval, where you still believe you are not enough. It's not here to destroy you, it's here to tempt you, so you can choose. The shadow path is seductive because it's supposed to be. Without temptation, there is no free will. Without free will, there is no true awakening. Every time you are tempted to take the shortcut, to manipulate instead of heal, to dominate instead of serve, you are standing at the threshold of transformation. Darkness isn't here to consume you. It's here to reveal you. And once you see it for what it is, you can thank it, not follow it, not fear it, but thank it, because it showed you what you still need to transmute. And then you can step back into your light, not as someone avoiding the dark, but as someone who understands it. This is the path of the true chosen one, not to be untempted, but to be unshaken, not to deny the dark, but to transcend it, not to fight the shadow, but to integrate it. And through that sacred alchemy, you become untouchable, not because you are above it all, but because you've become whole. And that is the most dangerous thing you can ever be. The final choice: becoming the bridge between heaven and earth. There comes a moment on the path of every chosen one when the illusions have fallen, the ego has been stripped bare, and all the spiritual theatrics have faded into silence. It's not a moment of celebration. It's a moment of confrontation. A moment where the soul stands naked before the infinite, and the only question that matters echoes through every dimension of your being: who will I become now that I know who I truly am? This is the final choice, not between good and evil, not between light and dark, but between serving self and serving source, between becoming a conduit for divine presence or a container for personal pride. To become the bridge between heaven and earth is not a romantic idea. It is a sacred burden. It is the willingness to walk with one foot in the mystery and one foot in the madness of the world. It means holding celestial truth in one hand and human suffering in the other. It means being a translator between the stars and the soil. And above all, it means you no longer live for yourself alone. You live as a vessel, a channel, an embodiment of something far greater than any personal ambition. The light-chosen ones make this choice not because they have to, but because they are compelled by something deeper than desire. They have seen the face of truth and have chosen to bow to it, not out of fear, but out of reverence. They have tasted the edge of divine love, the kind that asks nothing, gives everything, and burns away all falseness with its purity. And once you've known that love, truly known it, you cannot go back. You cannot pretend that power, performance, or prestige will ever fill you again. You become a servant of the sacred, and paradoxically, in that surrender, you become more powerful than ever. But to be this bridge, you must become empty, not hollow but clear. Your vessel must be purified not by force but by presence. The light cannot flow through a channel clogged with unhealed pain, hidden agendas, or spiritual ego. And so the journey becomes one of constant refinement. You are not trying to reach enlightenment. You are becoming light and shedding density, shedding illusion, shedding everything that separates you from source. Every wound you transmute becomes a gateway. Every shadow you integrate becomes a stepping stone. Every false identity you release becomes an opening for grace to move through you. And here is where the true challenge arises. The world will not reward you for this path, not in the ways your ego might hope. You may lose followers. You may be mocked, misunderstood, even feared. Because when you carry divine frequency, you become a mirror. And mirrors make people uncomfortable. They force others to see what they've avoided. And yet, that is your gift. You don't need to preach. You don't need to convince. Your being does the work. Your silence speaks louder than sermons. Your authenticity dismantles illusions. Your presence alone becomes a transmission. The dark chosen ones often avoid this final choice, not because they are evil, but because it requires the death of their identity. And that death feels like annihilation. But the truth is, it's a rebirth. A rebirth into the real, into the eternal, into the unified field where all separation dissolves and only love remains. But to reach that, you must be willing to let go of what you've built in the name of self, your platforms, your personas, your need to be the one. You must become no one so you can become everyone. That's the paradox of divine service. And so, this is the final vibration, the highest frequency. Not love alone, not truth alone, but embodied remembrance. You remember that you are not separate from the divine. You remember that you are not here to escape the world, but to infuse it with light. You remember that the purpose of your power is not to elevate you above others, but to awaken the divinity within them. You become a bridge, not a savior, not a master. A bridge, and in doing so you fulfill the highest destiny of the chosen. But the question remains, and it is yours alone to answer, will you make this final choice? Will you step beyond performance into presence? Will you let go of needing to be someone special so you can become something sacred? Will you live not for applause, but for alignment? Because the world doesn't just need more spiritual leaders, it needs living bridges. People who walk the earth with heaven in their eyes and humility in their hearts. People who can hold paradox without splitting. People who can sit in the fire of transformation and trust that it's making them holy. People whose very existence becomes a doorway through which others remember who they are. You are not here to ascend and leave this world behind. You are here to bring heaven into it. You are here to be the frequency of truth that cuts through the noise. You are here to be the love that cannot be manipulated, the light that cannot be dimmed, the presence that cannot be ignored. So breathe deep, stand tall, and choose. Not with your mind, not with your ego, but with your soul. Because now you know the biggest vibrational difference between the light and the dark chosen ones is not what they do, it's what they serve. And everything you do from this moment forward will reflect that choice. Choose the light, not because it's easy, but because it's eternal.